So welcome again to another class. In today's section, we're talking about box sizing, so we understand um padding and borders work for um for containers when we are working on our web page. So I have already created this file here. We have two files. One is the index.html, which contains like a basic HTML structure. Now, if you look at this particular file, you can see that inside the body tag, we have a main section which is going to contain like probably everything that we are going to do. I want to just use this to demonstrate that box sizing. And now we have two different boxes. One is the first box. I've given it a class of first, and the second one is the second box, right? The second div, like I'll give it a class of second. Now when we come to the style.css, the only style that I have there is I've given this a display of flex because I want them to show side by side. So if I go back to my web page right now and I refresh it, like we're just going to see this first and second. So this nothing much here, right? Okay, so what I actually want to do now is to apply styles to these two different boxes here. I want to apply a style to the first one and then to the second one, and then start adding stuff to them. Same dimensions, but it's just going to be different background color. Or if I'm adding borders, so I'm going to make the borders different too. So I'm going to come down here. I first do dot first, right? And what I'm going to do here is to give this a width of, let me give it a width of 200 pixels. I'm going to make it a square, and I'm going to give it a height of 200 pixels too. And then I'm going to give this a background color of, let me just choose this. Yep, I'm going to copy this also. I'm going to do the same thing for the second, but I'm just going to give it a different background color. So this background color is going to be some, let me just pick it from here. So I double click on this, yeah, bring this out. I'm going to change color something in this range. Okay, so this is going to be the color. So let's just inspect our web page again. So first, let me check that second again. Okay, I didn't rename that to second. So that's second. So I refresh this. I can see this is the first one, this is the second one. So I'm just going to give the second one a margin left so that they are not close to each other. So let me give this, say, margin left. It's going to be 20 pixels. So I just pull it away from the other one. And now we have this. Yeah, exactly. So there's a space between both of them, and we can see that they both look alike, exactly the same way. So the margin is not affecting our box. We can give it whatever margin that we need to give. It's going to pull apart. Now what we are trying to understand here is what's going to happen when we kind of like add paddings and add borders, and then we have height. How is it going to look like? Is it that when we give like a height of, say, we want this thing to be 200 pixels, and we say we want a padding of 100 pixels, is the 100 pixel for the padding going to replace that of the height? That's what we're trying to calculate here. So I'm first going to do something. I'm going to add a padding to the both of them. I'm doing the same thing for both of them, right? So I just add a padding here. First off, I'm going to give this 10 pixel, and then I would like us to look at this web page and we'll do some inspection to see what's going on around here. So when we give this 10 pixel and we refresh this, we can see that the first box looks a little bit bigger than the second box. So it seems like adding a padding to our element actually increases the size of our element. So from what we can see here, if this is actually 200 pixel as the height, you can definitely see that this is actually now greater than 200 pixel because of that particular padding that we added to it. So let's inspect the two elements. Let's inspect this first of all and look at the computed size. If you look at the computed size here, you can see that this has 200 pixel. There is nothing in the padding, nothing in the border, like all the sides are just free. But if you inspect this particular one, the first element here, you can see that you have 200 pixel, but you have like an extra 10 on all sides. Like, look at the web page itself. You can see that when I put my cursor here, you can see like a shine. I don't know what I would call this color now. On the outer part of the first box is showing you the padding. Like, it's added the padding to our height and our width. So our box is not 200 pixel again. In fact, what we can say that it is right now is 220. So it's adding both paddings in both ways, right, to this particular stuff, making our box bigger than what we have planned it to be. So if on your web page you wanted it to be 200 pixel, that's the absolute size you wanted it to look like, and you actually put something like a padding and a border as we are going to do. Let me add a border to this too. You're going to see that you're not going to get that 200 pixel. It's going to grow bigger, so it's doing like the addition of everything inside it. So let me come here and add a border of before I add the border, let me just add a padding also to this one down here, so that they both look alike, right? Let me add this padding down here. So when I add this padding down here, they definitely look alike. So the next thing I want to do is actually to add a border. I'm going to make this border to be, I want it to be thick, so it's 5 pixel thick. It's going to be a solid border, and then the color, I want the color to be yellow. Oh, let me make it black. I want the color to be black. I've added this border 5 pixel solid and I've made it black. So if you come back to our web page, you're welcome, and we refresh this, you can see that it wants to look like they are both the same, but then you can see that this is still extending. So if I inspect this particular element again, you can see that we have the 10, but the border is empty, is dash. There's no border here. But when we come to the first element right here, we can see that there is a 200, there is a 10 outside, and there is a 5 outside, making our box to look bigger, right? So I'm going to go a step further too and replicate this same stuff down here, and then I will introduce our main concepts to this. So what about if I just wanted to keep this width and this height like 200 pixels, and I don't want the padding or the border to affect whatever I'm doing, right? There's something called box sizing. So we can actually use box sizing to do this. And how we can do that is just write box sizing, and then there are two options we can actually use. We can use the border box, or we can use the context box. So I'll start with the border. I'll start with the context box first of all. The context box, the context box is the normal behavior that we have, even if we did not write it here. So for every div, or for all those containers that we have, that we are just running. If we don't put the box sizing, it's going to be a content box sizing. The content box sizing means that when you have the width and you have the height, even when you add padding and border, it's going to automatically calculate it by itself. Your web page, your browser is going to calculate its width and height, like adding the box itself and adding the padding and the border. So if you wanted to stick with 200 pixels as the absolute size, it's not going to work. It's going to add whatever stuff that you're putting there, whatever extra thing that you're adding to it is going to do that calculation. So if I go back to our web page, you will see that everything is going to look this big now. This guy is going to extend to this particular side. When I refresh this, exactly, it just grew in size. So if I wanted everything to still be accommodated inside the 200 pixel, the way I can do it is to set the box size into border box. So I'm going to do that for the second box, right? I'm going to come down here and say, instead of having content box here, I'm going to have border box. So this time around, when I refresh this, this is going to look smaller. Exactly. So let's inspect that second page and look at it. You can see that the width is not actually showing 200 by 200, even though we want it to be 200. Instead, what we have here is 170. Then we have 10 and 5, making this 15. 10 and 5, making this 15. And 15 plus 15 is 30. 30 plus 170 makes it the 200 that we want. So it's accommodating everything within our box itself. This whole side of our box, from the border to the padding to the inside of the box, is called the content of the box. So when we use border box, we are saying whatever width, whatever height I give it is going to be that particular stuff. Just calculate the padding and the border inside my box itself. I don't want it to spill over. But when we give it a contact box, or we don't put anyone at all, it's going to take our measurement, and then it's going to add all these paddings and all these borders to it. Take note that I didn't say that it's going to add the margin. It's going to add the border and the padding, not the margin. The margin is actually outside outside the div, is outside the box. The margin has a relationship with other boxes and not within the box itself. So I don't know if that makes sense, if that's clear. Let me see. Can you hear me? Okay. Very clear.
Yes, I can. I use the chat to respond.
Okay. So this actually makes sense, Abi.
Very clear.
Okay. I actually want to give one more example from this MDN website, because they talked about it too. But before I actually give that example, probably it's not needed, but maybe I'll just give it. There's an unexpected behavior that is actually going to happen if you go and give a crazy padding to this particular stuff, a padding that is more than the width. So if I put something here like 1000, you're not going to get what you expect. This box is going to grow very, very large if you put something like 1000. So you probably don't want to do that. So that's going to be a very weird behavior. Your box is going to grow very, very big, even though you put it as a border. Listen, so just make sure that when you're trying to add your paddings and your borders, like, it's within the limit of what the box can carry, so we don't get all this kind of unexpected behavior. So that's example one, right? So the second example I'm going to be using, I'm just going to create like, I'm only going to be using one box inside this one, right? So I'm not going to use a first and a second. I'll have this, and I can still leave this one as first, right? I'll take this away. Okay. I want to give this a width of 100 pixel. Yeah. So yes, 100%. Let me see if it's going to take. Because I didn't give the main parent a, yeah, okay. It took the full width. So yesterday we talked about pixels, which is the first measurement. I asked us that, I think it was yesterday or the previous class, that we're just going to make assumptions that pixel is the default measurement we are going to be using for our dimensions. But there's something called, there's a percent symbol that we can also use. So what this percent symbol actually does is that once we say 100%, we are saying that we want this component to take the full width of its parent component. Since the parent component is a main and is a flex, it's taking the full width of the web page, and so this is going to take 100% of that. If I actually put this as 50%, then it's just going to take half of the space. It's not going to take everything. So when we refresh this, we just see that it takes half of the space. So that's another unit of measurement that we can actually use. So I'm going to take it back to 100%, right? So this 100%, let me give this, let me just put this as a normal solid and give this a particular width. I'm going to give this a width of 500 pixel. So our box should look smaller. Okay, nice. So we already have the what I can actually do here too is I want to actually give this kind of like its own border too. I'm going to give this its own border. I'll probably make it yellow. So I can come here, paste this and put ff0, right? So this is actually yellow. I'm giving this a border too. Let me see how it looks like. Okay. Oh, that's not going to look very clear. That's not going to look very clear. So let me switch the black up and then move this yellow down. Switching this. Okay. So before I start this, I'm not going to put the padding yet, and I'm not going to put, let me not put this border yet. So we just say the background color of this blue. Why for this particular guy, we just know that it is being bounded by a black color. Yes, so when we actually refresh our web page on this, we can see the black. The black actually is the main container. This is not the border of the second of the div that we are using. This is the main container. It's the black, and we can see that because we gave this 100% of the parent container, we can see that it is within. It is actually within that. It's within that boundary that we've set it to be, like, right. Remember that when we don't give it a border, a box sizing, is actually using content box. So what I want to do right now is to uncomment the padding and the border. So we'll see what happens from here. When I uncomment this, I expect this to spill out because it's not going to take 100% of this width again, right? Look at what I mean here. When we refresh this, we can see that our box is now coming out of the main parent. The main parent is black, has this black, right, border. But because we have added paddings and border to the child component, it is spilling over. The only way we can correct this to make this to be fitted into the parent component is, okay, here I even have the border box here, so let me uncomment this to prove that, oh, we, even when we don't write it, it's actually still doing that stuff. So let me refresh that. Yes, exactly, so you can still see that here. So this time around I'm going to change this to border box. So I'm going to change this to border box, and then we are going to see that everything is going to fit right within this black box. So when we refresh this page, you can see that everything is now back as we want it to be. We can see the yellow is inside, and then we can see that the black is at the outer boundary. So this is how paddings, borders work within our boxes. Most times when you want to actually design stuff, right, so that you understand things that are going on, you probably want to use the border box. So that if I have like 4 different boxes here, and I'm like, oh, take 25% of the width and I add them here, it will fit inside the component itself. If you notice that there's a space outside, then you should think about it that, oh, probably I didn't set the box sizing, that's why it's going outside. So once you set the box sizing to border box, is going to fit within the whole stuff. And so I actually wanted to just clear this up before we move further to continue our application. I hope this helps.